Everything we do is going to be about winning. Okay, we're going to learn to do things the right way, and that's the only way we're going to do them. Because if it doesn't help us, we're not doing it, man. That's just as simple as it gets. Win the Super Bowl.
That's
I
good.
mean it too. You know, one of the things that the only reason you become a head coach in this league, in my opinion, is to win. That's it. That's the bottom line. If you do it for any other reason, you're wrong.
Hey football fans, welcome to the Washington Command Center, and welcome into the second installment of Commanding Excellence, where I go over and compare possible draft targets that might be able to fill the same or similar roles within our team, to try to find out who would be the best prospect to begin this new era of Washington football with, an era where this proud franchise can once again command respect. And what better way to kick off this new era than subscribing here to the Washington Command Center, so you can find your way back to the most opinionated and ice-cold calculated takes on all things Washington Commanders. While you're at it, ring that bell and hit that like button. It's free to do, and it means a lot. Today, we're going to go over the linebacker class. Now, I've already made it clear that I think Chenal is the best fit for our needs at linebacker, along with him being one of the best prospects in this class, period, in my opinion. But I'm going to touch on some of the other top prospects and what they could do for our defense before taking a look at most people's top-ranked linebacker in this class and explaining why, in the end, I think Chenal would still be a much better choice. So I'm going to start out here just eliminating some of the top-ranked guys at the position flat out. If for no other reason than I just don't think that they project as Mike linebackers, the kind of linebacker we need. And most of them are made completely redundant by Jamin Davis's move outside to Will, with Jamin having far better athletic tools and flashing the ability to cover even the freakiest tight end in college with Kyle Pitts. I'm confident Jamin will end up a better linebacker than a lot of these highly rated guys in this draft. So, the shocker, right off the bat, removing a lot of people as linebacker one right away. Nakobe Dean. Now, I'm not sure he has the athleticism to overcome his size and length in the NFL. And he hasn't done anything to prove me wrong. He hasn't tested, and I just got a lot of questions. I also think he's going to get devoured by blockers in the NFL. He had a great defensive line that kept him very clean in Georgia. And anytime he was met by a blocker, it was pretty much play over for him. So I just don't see that translating well. And I can't see him, with his size and length, being able to consistently handle NFL tight ends either. But I think he can carve out a niche as like a chase and tackle linebacker, get to the edge first kind of guy. Somebody that's going to, stop the running backs getting to the outside. But it's not something we need. And I really think he's kind of overrated. We also have Brian Asamoah and Christian Harris. Now, a lot of Washington fans are high on Christian Harris, but I think they're going to be forced into the same area for the same reasons as Nakobe Dean at the next level. And while both of them, I think, have better athleticism, at least, they've tested and they're pretty decent athletes, I honestly think Brian Asamoah might end up as the best of the three. Because testing aside, his sideline to sideline movement is just special and kind of rare. But I think all three are going to struggle for the same reasons. I'm just going to go ahead and stick it out with Brian Asamoah there because his celebration, reminds me of my favorite episode of Blue Mountain State.
We're Which one of you assholes just stuck his finger in my asshole?
This episode. But, yeah, I just don't think any of them offer us more than Jamin Davis does at, will linebacker, and they don't have potential at, the Mike position. So I just don't see them as targets at all. And with those guys out of the way, some of the other prospects that are borderline Mike types, but would still probably be best as will linebackers, these are guys we got to really, not just look at the tape, but their testing, their play style, level of competition, and their role that they had on their teams to try to separate them. Now, personally, I think that 3 of the highest potential, freakiest athlete guys that have all the size, strength, and tools to play Mike at this point just aren't ready to step in. They're not ready to make the kind of impact we need. And they would be a lot like drafting Jamin Davis all over again. So I guess you can't entirely count it out, for Ron, to maybe take one of these guys because he did it with Jamin. But these guys, I think, would all be better fits outside. And starting out, we got Troy Anderson, who just doesn't have much experience at linebacker. This guy was a quarterback and a running back, but he has all the size, speed, and athleticism to be molded into an elite linebacker in any role, really. I kind of see him as like a even rawer Leighton Vander Esch. Like, I think he could be that guy, which, first couple years, Leighton is pretty dang good. And then there's also Channing Tindall, another Georgia linebacker. And I think he'll be able to play anywhere across the linebacker level if he adds a few more pounds. He had a very limited role in Georgia, so we didn't get to see everything from him. But with the right coaching, strength and conditioning, he could end up, being a great Mike linebacker in the future. And I honestly think he's the closest thing to Leo Chenal as far as downhill explosion in this class. Like, they both can get downhill in a hurry. I just don't think Tindall has the strength to stack and shed offensive linemen anywhere on the same planet as Chenal. So I also don't see him even close in the diagnosis or the motor standpoint either. But he still has a lot of potential. And finally, out of this group of freaks, and the one that hurts my heart the most is Brandon Smith. This guy was far and away my biggest linebacker crush coming into the season. He's a local Virginia boy that played at Penn State with the freakiest physical tool set in the draft at the linebacker position. Hands down, point blank, period. Brandon Smith had a perfect 10 RAS before adding an elite 3-cone and a shuttle, but having a damn 19 bench reps drop him down to 9.97, which ain't bad, but still, he was a perfect 10. He shouldn't even benched. A lot of these guys are getting away with skipping 3-cones and stuff. Just don't bench, bro. You'd have stayed at 10. But he put it all out there, took a knock for it. And like I said, 9.97 ain't bad. And even with Leo and Anderson having higher RAS scores, I still stand by Smith as the highest potential freak athlete of the class. Like, he is a freak. The only problem is he definitely needs considerable development. Like, he showed that his transition to Mike from the overhang is going to be more of a process than we all hoped. And we really aren't in that kind of a window. We need a guy to step right in at the mic and get it done at a high level. And honestly, if not, Smith's probably the best guy to develop out of the class. Sadly, I don't think, that's where we are. I don't think we need a guy to develop for later. We kind of need a guy that'll elevate the position right now. But Smith is just a bigger, stronger Jamin Davis. Honestly, I would take him over Jamin in a second, but we already have Jamin on the team. That's who we're rocking with. And that said, if he's sliding considerably down the boards, and if we end up with like maybe extra picks from a trade back, and he's somehow still sitting there in like the 4th round, he's unpassable at that point. You have to take him. You know, even if we get a if we go Leo Chenal in the 1st round, Chenal in the 1st round, if Brandon Smith's sitting there in the 4th, you have to. It's just ridiculous value. And in 2 years' time, we'd probably, with him, Jamin, and Leo, we'd probably be able to not play nickel at all because all the speed freaky guys we have out there, we could just stay base 4-3 and yeah, just keep 3 linebackers on the field all the time. But yeah, that's just a dream scenario. We got to look for that one perfect linebacker fit. And I think there are 5 prospects that could all step in pretty much right away. Well, not for one of them, but from day one of when they can play and get it done. But, you know, with various levels of impact. I really don't think any of these guys are the wrong answer, and all could be solid pieces for the next 10 years. And that's Quay Walker and Damone Clark. I think both those guys edge out Darian Bevers, who, you know, managed to somehow come in smaller than them and still considerably slower. I think Walker and Clark both have the play style, size, athleticism, instinct, and IQ to end up as solid, you know, top tier level linebackers. Guys like Alexander Johnson, Zach Cunningham, somewhere between the Alexander Johnsons, the Zach Cunninghams, the Mario Davises, or like this year's version of Devondre Campbell. Like, I don't know if I see elite every year linebackers out of them, but I think these are the kind of guys that are going to be solid right out of the gate, and they're gonna spend a few years inside that top 10 linebacker ranking throughout their career. And these guys would be a welcomed addition to the defense. That more than anything, they'd fill holes, take away weakness. I just think there are more impactful prospects. Also, Clark just had spine surgery and is going to miss his rookie season. So honestly, he might just become a beautiful dart throw in the 7th round where we could end up with a very high quality depth linebacker for the future. Then we got Chad Muma, who some people actually view as a better prospect than Chenal. And that's because, you know, the coverage ability he's displayed. And I think people tend to overvalue coverage at the linebacker level, myself included. I've been very guilty of it in the past. And while I do think he's done better there than Chenal, you still have to question the competition he played. Muma didn't face a single Power 5 team at all this year. Not one. Now, he answered some of those questions with a good Senior Bowl, but, you know, he's still got some questions, and I really like him. And like I said, I'm usually a sucker for a good coverage linebacker, but I think Muma's more than that. He's one of those jack-of-all-trades types and not just a coverage linebacker. And I'm considering him coverage because coverage is the only area where he has the edge on Chenal. But with that, you know, that's not what we're going to need from the Mike moving towards, you know, the nickel scheme more. You know, we'll have an extra coverage man out there in the nickel. We have Jamin Davis moving to the outside where his coverage abilities will shine. It's not the priority from the Mike position. And there are some things about him that concern me. I mean, testing slower and possibly being, less rangy at the next level could kind of hurt his claim to fame in coverage anyway. And he's good, but not elite there. He very much falls into that idiom of jack of all trades, master of none, just like these other top prospects I'm comparing here. While, he's been great at reading, following the play, and making tackles, he bides his time and scrapes across the line to meet the running back in the hole, which is good. But he's shown that he can get moved around by offensive linemen at times. And you want your Mike linebacker to be able to take on offensive linemen and penetrate into the backfield and win consistently. And Muma is good, but not great there. I see him as like a Matt Milano type of linebacker that's going to fare better in that overall coverage role if he's able to maintain that play speed he had in Wyoming against NFL competition. That's not a bad guy to be compared to, but that's kind of where I think he's going to be. And this is a guy that would definitely help solidify this defense, but I don't think he has any truly elite area of his game, or traits, to be a massive improvement. He's just, in my opinion, not the optimal fit. As much as I like him as a prospect, I really think I would actually take maybe Quay Walker. Definitely, if Clark was healthy, I would definitely take him over Muma because of our needs. And they just seem more powerful at the line of scrimmage. And finally, the final showdown here between everybody's top linebacker, Devin Lloyd versus Leo Chenal. To me, Devin Lloyd personifies the jack of all trades, master of none, even more than Muma. But he's still top tier in a few. In coverage, his length, football IQ, and his ball skills as a former wide receiver help him have great production at the college level. But his stiffness and less than elite athleticism could spell less success at the NFL level. He's also barely average as a tackler, having 3 seasons with double-digit missed tackle percentage. He had 11.5% missed tackle rate this season alone, which is worrisome from what we need at the mic. I also think his pass rushing ability is being vastly overrated. Like, I see people compare him to Micah Parsons for some reason, and that's crazy. Like, when you look at what Devin Lloyd does as a pass rusher and you try to compare that to Micah Parsons, that's nuts. First, Lloyd's got one of the lowest pressure rates among, these top linebackers. Like, he's only got a 18.8% pressure rate, which ain't bad, but it's not great. And if you look at the sacks he was able to get, like, they were from free blitzes or like juking or stutter stepping offensive linemen and then kind of like going past them. There wasn't much, if any, taking on and beating blocks. Like, if somebody got their hands on him, even like Nakobe Dean, it was kind of like that was the play. Where Parsons and Chenal put linemen on their heels, if not asses. Now, overall, I really don't see Lloyd's skills or abilities altogether being first round worthy. And the biggest separator between Lloyd, Muma, and Damone Clark, to me, outside of the level of competition, where Muma clearly had the lowest, but Damone Clark clearly had the highest level of competition there in the SEC. Which also raises the question, would Lloyd be the top linebacker in this class if he played in the SEC? That's something you always got to think about. You know, the biggest difference in their play, though, outside of that, with all them being that all around, jack of all trades type, was the craftiness that Lloyd played with. Like, that's what kind of got him the edge. And while you'd think, hey, they're all seniors with 3 years of starting experience, hey, Lloyd's just ahead of the curve. But it, that actually leads to one of the roughest knocks on Lloyd, and that's his age. Just like Pickett, Devontae Wyatt, Bernard Ryman, and sadly, my man JoJo Doman, even though his age is easier to swallow, being that he's going to be a fourth or fifth round pick instead of like a first round guy. But Lloyd is old as hell for a rookie. Devin is just a few months younger than Tremaine Edmonds, who will be, he'll begin this fifth and final year of his rookie contract during Devin Lloyd's rookie year. He'll be 24. Devin Lloyd will be 24 years old before he takes an NFL snap, and 29 by the time his rookie contract ends if he's taken in the first round with that fifth-year option. So compared to these other prospects, he better look like a crafty vet. like his savviness better be top shelf compared to these guys. He's old. He's as old as at least a third-year NFL player. Now, we're definitely in a position where we want a guy that could come right in and start, but you don't want to spend what will probably be your most valuable pick, since, we'd have to possibly spend 11 to get him. I don't even know if we could trade back and land him with all the hype on a player that very likely has plateaued. Looking at his age with his speed and strength concerns, I think he might just be a finished product. With warts that are going to show in the NFL. So that's why I kind of, that's kind of why I look at Devin Lloyd with kind of like a slanted eye, and why I think Chenal's better. So why the hell would I prefer a linebacker that some people see as a third rounder, and at the highest, the third ranked guy, 2 places behind Lloyd, according to PFF? Why would I prefer Chenal over him? Well, elite traits and motor just to start. Chenal is an elite athlete. He has a 9.99 RAS, which is good for the 4th highest out of 2,188 linebackers that have been tested since 1987. So 4th most athletic linebacker since 1987. And honestly, 2 of those guys are edge rushers and shouldn't actually count against the linebackers. So Chenal should be the 2nd most athletic linebacker prospect of all time, with, strangely enough, Troy Anderson this year being the most. But Chenal was the leader of that Wisconsin defense, the top-rated defense in the country, yes, ahead of Georgia's sideshow of elite human oddities. Wisconsin was the top-rated. Now, Leo is a juggernaut, an unstoppable force, and an absolutely rare blend of speed, power, explosiveness, size, and technique in a modern linebacker. There just aren't guys like him. And when he makes contact, he drives blockers back. He was able to give fits to the Quentin Nelson of center prospects, Tyler Lindenbaum, a guy that manhandles defensive linemen and pinned Tristan Wirfs. Tyler Lindenbaum ain't no pushover. And as a linebacker, Chenal gave him a bad day. And that's special. Like, that's special that you can do that. From as a linebacker. Lesser offensive linemen, though, they become turnstiles to Chenal. Like, he just blows right by him. He uses good hand technique and explosiveness to do like a mini Aaron Donald. You know, he's got really nice hands, getting offensive linemen off of him, combined with power that's well above his size. And he's already a huge linebacker, but he plays even stronger. He's got a pretty smooth swim and swipe and duck moves. Like he beats linemen. He's got a lot of nice little smooth moves. And he can also get skinny to shoot through gaps. Like this, his big ass can shoot through spots you would never imagine. Now, you stack Chenal up with Payne or Allen on a blitz, and it's going to be unstoppable. If he doesn't get the quarterback will just, you know, he'll displace the lineman and free up one of our guys on the D line, or force the quarterback to run into one of our, Chase or Sweat's arms. Like, Leo Chenal will help our D line feast. He's a guy that manages to blow people up and be a big hitter while being clean. He's not going to get in trouble for any unnecessary roughnesses. And he's a pretty short tackler at the same time, which is rare. Being able to hit somebody like that while being that controlled, it's awesome to see. This dude explodes downhill in the blink of an eye with faster 10 to 20 yard splits than Micah Parsons. This guy is faster for the first 20 yards than Micah Parsons. And he destroys whatever is in front of him, while he's still able to follow the ball carrier and scrape across the line before unleashing that violence. He's just not running face first into an offensive lineman and that's it. Like, he has great ability to follow the play, to read the play out, and be where he needs to be. And this is one of the few modern linebackers I feel like can meet King Henry or definitely Zeke in the hole and win 9 out of 10 times. Like, he comes down, hits King Henry head on. Henry's going back, which not many linebackers in today's NFL can say that. These 220-pound guys become speed bumps. Chenal coming down, he's going to blast whatever linebacker comes through the hole. And he's relentless in his pursuit. The dude's like the Terminator. He just keeps coming down after down. And while he might not be a great coverage player yet, that's not our main concern, like I've said a bunch of times. With the Mike linebacker in the nickel scheme, we're going to have Jamin outside now, with his ability and range to run and chase and be a tight end eraser, along with an extra nickel defender. Hopefully, a guy from this draft like Jalen Petrie to handle the shiftier slot wide receivers. But this guy's, compared to Lloyd, he's 2 years younger, more athletically impressive, and he has the potential to greatly improve there. Already flashing a good nose for sniffing out screens and a decent ability when dropping into zones to eliminate passing lanes and disrupt quarterback progressions. He's not as bad in coverage as some people try to make it out. He just needs to develop more there. He showed an ability to consistently get better every year at Wisconsin. There's no reason at 21 years old he's going to stop developing now. I like his ability to develop farther, the potential of it a lot better than Devin Lloyd's at 24. And I think Chenal just excels at everything we need from the mic while having that athletic upside, explosive traits, and skill base that'll let him be an impact player right out the gate, along with the potential to be an elite player at the position for the next 10 years. He doesn't just fill a need and upgrade the position. He's the kind of player that can elevate this entire defense just by doing what he already does. Like, let's just look at some of the numbers this season, his stats against, Devin Lloyd's. So Chenal had 115 tackles to Devin Lloyd's 111. Chenal had 18 and a half tackles for loss, while Lloyd had 22. Chenal had 8 sacks, Lloyd had 7. Chenal had 26 pressures, Lloyd had 31. Chenal had 63 defensive stops, Lloyd had 56. Now, it looks fairly even until you realize Lloyd played 3 more games than Chenal, because Chenal missed the first 2 games of the season with COVID, and the Badgers didn't make the playoffs, so he didn't get that extra game. So Leo's stats start to look a bit more impressive then when you realize he played 3 less games. And then just looking at the grading, Chenal had 15.8% run stop rate, while Lloyd only had a 10.8. And PFF's run stop rate is any tackle against the run on a play that constitutes a failure of the offense. Typically, these are tackles short of the first down marker on third down or fourth down, or tackles for short gain on first and second down. So he had a better run stop rate, considerably better than Lloyd. His run defense grade was 94.1, which is one of the best all time, right behind Micah Parsons. And I just recently heard that there was one better grade than Micah Parsons. So third best run defense grade of all time, according to PFF, as a linebacker prospect. Missed tackle rate, Chenal had a 10.8, while Lloyd had an 11.5. They both would definitely need to clean that up, but Chenal's is a lot better. Chenal had a 25.5 pressure rate, while Lloyd only had an 18.8. Chenal had a 91.3 grade in the box, while Lloyd only had an 88.7. It's just, yes, Lloyd outperformed Chenal, everywhere in coverage. But I really don't think that area of Lloyd's game is going to be anywhere near as productive at the next level. And I don't think he has the fluidity or athleticism to translate as a coverage linebacker. And I've also said that, that's not really something we should be looking for from a Mike anyway. Having 2 extra coverage players in Jamin and a player at nickel. Your Mike linebacker should be a big, strong run defender, blitzer to complement those guys. And I think NFL offenses are starting to trend towards being able to exploit the smaller coverage linebacker with power run games anyway. And while Lloyd might have the length and height over, those other guys like the Asamoahs and the Deans that I talked about, he's still a very slight guy. He's only, 237 was his high. I think Ron's approach to committing to the nickel it makes more sense with how things are trending. I think having players that fill specific roles in elite ways is a way better route than players kind of good at everything. I think a monster in the middle like Chenal is going to make a bigger impact there, while purpose-built nickel players like Jalen Petrie is going to do far more for you in coverage than any linebacker could dream of. So this whole idea of getting a coverage linebacker, it's like, why bother? You're playing nickel. You have an actual secondary player out there. And honestly, you're going to get similar production as a run blocker from a guy like Petrie as well. So on top of the fit and the skill projection, Chenal just has Lloyd beat every possible way, I think. Not just combine numbers where Leo dusts him in the 40 with his 4.53 to Lloyd's 4.66. With Leo having an insane 9.9 RES while Lloyd's got a 9.58. He also edges him out on actual play speed, according to GPS data. Chenal topped 20.3 miles per hour, while Lloyd's max was 20.1. Chenal also had 16 plays where he broke 16 miles an hour. So the dude flies around. He's constantly zooming around the field. So in the end, I think Chenal is a way better linebacker prospect in this draft. I think he's the best. He's a perfect fit for our scheme. He's hard-nosed, high-motor, football player that lives this game and wants to be the best there is. And just like Petrie is the kind of player that personifies what we are looking for as we command excellence moving forward in this new era of Washington football. An era where we take command of this division, then this conference, and finally command respect from the whole NFL. Washington could have the kind of defense that gives quarterbacks PTSD after the game. The type of defense that causes quarterbacks to flinch, shiver, and sweat anytime they see burgundy and gold. The type of defense that causes quarterbacks to decide to hold out for a new contract mid-season before playing us. That's the kind of Commanders football I want to see. You know, get a nice complimentary wide receiver in the fourth. We already got Terry, Diami, and Curtis. Get one of those guys in the fourth. Give me these guys after a trade back to kick things off. But let me know what you think. Is that your kind of football? If it is, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe here. If you want to make it back for some of the most opinionated and ice-cold calculated takes on all things Washington Commanders. And if you watch this long, I love y'all. Peace.